Hey, hi. Listen, what would a tour of Ann Arbor be without the Law Quad? So let's take a look now at the Law Quad. This is a magnificent campus, and anybody who has been through Ann Arbor, who has lived in Ann Arbor, went to school in Ann Arbor, obviously you're aware of the Law Quad. In fact, many of you probably had your picture taken inside the Law Quad grounds. I know with our children, when they graduated from high school and they had their senior pictures, I think all three of them had photographs done inside the grounds of the Law Quad. So it's a magnificent building. I was actually very fortunate to get this particular shot because there's nobody in the arch or in the general commons area when I shot the photo. Now, sometimes I like having people there because it shows perspective, but it's unusual because there's so much, not only foot traffic from the students, but just folks who want to have a peaceful step back in time, because that's how it feels when you go onto the grounds of the Law Quad. All right, some background information. This building, this complex, was erected over a period of a number of years from 1924 to 1933, actually about a decade went into the full construction of all the buildings on the Law Quad, hence the term quad, the quadrangle. So the way all of this started goes back because the indigenous folks, three Native American tribes, the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi, they granted certain lands for use by the University of Michigan, and by the end of the 19th century, Michigan was the largest and most generously supported public university in America and already a leader in graduate education. The University of Michigan Law School, one of the oldest law schools in the nation, was founded in 1859. But unlike other highly selective law schools established in that era, admission was never restricted to the privileged. When Gabriel Hargel graduated from the law school in 1870, Michigan, then the largest law school in the nation, became the second American university following Harvard to confer a law degree on an African American. That same year, Michigan was the first major law school to admit a woman, and in 1871, graduate Sarah Kilgore became the first woman with a law degree in the nation to be admitted to the bar. By 1890, Michigan had graduated more women than any other law school. That commitment to access and diversity joined an equally powerful commitment to excellence, which continues to this day. In 1877, Clarence Darrow studied law at the University of Michigan Law School. The law school has long held an international reputation. In 1878, the first Japanese students graduated. During Cooley's deanship, the school took pride in being open to all persons literate in English, including over 80 subjects of the Emperor of Japan, who were sent to Ann Arbor as part of the opening of that empire to external influence. So it's got quite a history to it. I strongly recommend that you revisit. In fact, revisit on a seasonal basis, because throughout the year it takes on different color, different feel. It truly is a step back in time. So I encourage you to take advantage of this iconic complex right here in Ann Arbor on our campus. As I always do, I take a look at reactions for people, solicit memories and remarks, and here are a couple of them. As you can well imagine, when I published these photographs at the Ann Arbor Town East site, which is a good place to test interest in subject matter like this, it had a tremendous response, and comments such as, it looks so much like an old Europe monastery, and it does have that old kind of almost medieval romantic period feel to it. Simply love is what somebody said. Spectacular, said another person. One of my faves for portraits back in the day, and indeed it is. In fact, you rarely now, particularly with cell phone cameras, can walk through without somebody taking a photograph. This iconic quadrangle never gets tired. I love it more and more with each visit. And somebody said, this makes me homesick. And I think that's part of what the series is all about, both the book, of course, and the video series. is to stir nostalgia, to give us a chance to pause and go back to at least in retrospect, a simpler time, although, of course, if you're a student, it's a pretty hectic time. But it's a wonderful pause in today's life to reflect, go back, and remember some of the pleasant days walking around on the campus, walking around Ann Arbor in general. I also take a look at the worldwide perspective with all of the photographs and all of the entries. At this time in 1924, Lenin, at the age of 53, he was mute, bedridden since March of that year. He dies. Stalin wins power through a violent struggle, and he rules as the Soviet dictator until his death in 1953. It's interesting that both Lenin and Woodrow Wilson die in the same year. Wilson was 67, and he had a long illness before he passed. Walt Disney creates his first cartoon, Alice's Wonderland, in 1924, and Edward Hubble demonstrates that spiral nebulae, is that the word? Yeah, nebulae, are composed of stars like our own galaxy. So a lot of things were happening in 1924. So I hope you enjoyed our quick tour of the Law Quad. Get down there, walk through it. In the wintertime, it's very, very peaceful too, particularly after a nice snowfall. The most beautiful time, arguably, is in the autumn when all of the colors, and one of the beauties is that when these bricks are wet, the colors just bounce all over the place. It's just truly a beautiful, beautiful spot. All right, thanks, enjoy, and I'll see you next time.